About 3 months ago, my 37-year-old fiancé and I, a 38-year-old man, became engaged. We have been dating for over 3 years now. She has 2 children from a past relationship, a male tween and a teenage girl. For the most part, their dad is involved in their lives. All of the adults are good communicators and co-parents. I get along with the youngest, but Riley, my soon-to-be stepdaughter, and I have never been able to get along. She doesn't see me as a parent, and doesn't want me to try to be a father to her because she already has one. And she has made this very clear to me, my fiancé, and her bio dad. My fiancé texted me a few days ago to ask if I could pick Riley up from school, because she was going to be late due to something at work. Riley's sports injury is treated by my fiancé, who picks her up once a week to take her to her chiropractic session. I wasn't on the approved pickup list yet, so she told me she would call the school to let them know I will be picking Riley up. But as soon as I arrived at Riley's school, I realized that my fiancé had completely neglected to call. The school's doors are locked and you need a code or the administration to buzz you in. I buzzed the office to let them know my fiancé should have called, to let them know I would be picking Riley up. They were ignorant of the matter. For 5 to 10 minutes, I waited outside while they worked everything out. I attempted to text and contact my fiancé, but she did not respond. Then the real uniformed policeman, who was the school resource officer, came out and told me I had to leave, or he would arrest me for trespassing. I made an effort to speak with him, but he insisted that I had to leave the school grounds since I was not allowed there. All I could do was head out without Riley. At last, my fiancé phoned me back after waiting for an hour. She apologized for being distracted at work and neglecting to call the school, after I told her what had happened. She assured me that after she and Riley got home, she would figure it out and meet me there. Riley headed directly towards her quarters. After sitting me down, my fiancé revealed that Riley had lied to the office. She claimed she had never seen me before and had no idea who I was. She believed it would be humorous. Riley was informed of the danger involved, and she promised to work with Riley's father to come up with a suitable penalty. I'm sure you can imagine how badly the news affected me. I acknowledge that. I spoke up to her. Though I didn't yell, I did speak louder than normal. She encouraged me to calm down, but I refused, telling her that her daughter had nearly had me jailed and she found it amusing. She didn't call the school, so I reminded her that she shares equal responsibility with Riley for this, which made me look creepy. My fiancé feels that I should let Riley's dad and her handle this because I'm overreacting. Is it my fault for getting all worked up over my fiancé when her daughter nearly got me arrested? Not the fool. Riley should be punished in part by writing a letter of apology to the resource officer and front office personnel of the school, explaining that she does know you and that she just thought it would be humorous to put you in an unpleasant situation. Riley should also apologize for the stress and problems her deception created. Her sudden realization of how important this was, and how careless it was of her to play about with the school's efforts to protect student safety, should be made clear in her letter. It's time for you and your fiancé to have a talk about why you're not on the approved pickup list, and why your emergency contact number is 3. Riley's resentment may be explained and boundaries and expectations set with the aid of some family therapy. You need to think carefully about your future with your fiancé, you know. Sure, Riley missed the call and dropped the ball, but if she had been honest, she could have easily fixed the problem. She probably didn't mean for this to be a lighthearted joke. Being a teenager, Riley probably has access to the internet, news, TikTok, and other resources. She did it despite being mature enough to understand the societal repercussions of what refusing you would do. This seems far more nasty than a poorly executed practical joke, unless she is indeed that foolish. In a relationship or in life, is it possible to feel content, protected, and safe when there is someone deliberately trying to undermine you? Exercise extreme caution. OP, my 34-year-old wife, and I, 39, have been wed for approximately a decade. I've done most of the cooking during the past 10 years. I'm confident in my abilities because I've worked in a kitchen, and she developed a strong affection for my food really early in our relationship. During this period, she would sometimes cook for me, but to be very honest, I usually preferred to avoid it because the food was never very good. She's cooking a lot more, now that our 4-year-old kid is here and she's a stay-at-home mother, but it's not working out. I've probably heard her argue with our son in this similar way 100 times by now. Every time it starts the same way. She cooks something he's previously declared to be disliked. She has a massive rage and tells him that if he can't eat his food, he should go. He can't stand it, and frequently says, "Yuck." He sobs and retaliates. It's up to me to pick up the pieces. My wife decided to cook her seafood stew last night. Her recipe for seafood stew is one of her worst ones. She adds a bunch of overcooked fish to a pot. Then she adds some vegetables. Yep, she adds them after the fish. A few cans of tomatoes, and leaves it to simmer for a bit. The dish is almost flavorless because she doesn't add any seasoning. Even yet, the canned tomatoes' acidity is really terrible. Even after over 10 years of assiduously trying to consume her cooking, I still find it to be terrible. My son declared he wouldn't eat the stew as soon as he saw it. My wife, of course, flipped a lid and told him to get out. Rather than attempting to defuse the situation, I informed her that she should be leaving if she couldn't provide for her own child, and that it was her own damn responsibility for never even attempting to learn how to cook. She sent out a loud cry, declared that she would consume the entire stew by herself and then bounded off. I suddenly lost it. My breaking point had reached. I think I'd gone too far now, not the fool. I'm not sure how you can be the moron when she's acting like a mean M and telling their tiny child to leave. In this situation, what even does get out mean? Does he live somewhere with his own flat? Is this preschooler required to walk the streets alone? That is simply incorrect. Yes, that was brutally honest, but you need to have told her the truth long ago, especially if you've been eating her food for the entire time in order to save her feelings. The fact that you always end up eating whatever she makes suggests to her that you like her food. In actuality, though, you've been shielding her from the unpleasant truth, which she ought to have known years ago. She reacted excessively, but you ought to have told her this information a long time ago. This situation is basically my worst nightmare. Everyone is the fool. Although I enjoy cooking a lot, I always want complete honesty from others. If people continued to eat my cuisine without expressing disapproval and I continued to serve the same awful food, I would perish. People always claim things are good or fine, just to be polite or not to offend me. And I'm terrified of that. It was absolutely not his place to shield her sentiments. She requires a dose of realism. I am a 61-year-old woman with 3 children. Let's name him David. He's 38 years old. A few years ago, David and his wife separated amicably because, although David yearned for a child, she showed little desire in having one. He met 36-year-old Jennifer, his current girlfriend. 3 children are Jennifer's from her first marriage. Following a few weeks of dating, Jennifer informed David that she was expecting a child. David felt content. Despite having a solid work, David is unable to support a partner and 4 children, and his landlord is planning to sell the property and was planning to evict him. We offered to put him and Jennifer in our basement, my husband and I. With 2 bedrooms and recently refurbished, the basement is set apart from the upstairs to provide solitude for them. Then the upper rooms where we live can belong to the 2 elder children. In the beginning, we can even assist with their meals and won't be collecting rent. Everything was all right. Since the baby has been here for a few months, Jennifer has been screaming all the time about how much she detests this basement. It was obvious that we could hear. My spouse asked Jennifer if she could urge her children to tidy up after themselves since they always leave dirty dishes all over the upstairs. "We are bullying the youngsters," she yelled. They're twins, her older 2. Downstairs there has been constant strife and fighting. We made an effort to stay out of it. Jennifer informed my husband today that with 4 kids we need to be the ones residing in the basement right now. They require more room. We specifically made the upstairs accessible for my spouse, who informed her that he has multiple sclerosis. It's his property too. She remained silent, but later on David returned upstairs, upset that Jennifer had been crying, feeling trapped in this place and that we hadn't been nice to her. Since we don't trade places with them, are we the idiots? Edit. Jennifer shoots pictures on the side. She once suggested that we sell the house and use the proceeds to get them a place to live. To be honest, we are unable. My spouse can get around the house. I enjoy having my space, even though I live close to my other children and frequently watch my grandchildren. She wants you to give up on your house so she may buy her own without having to pay for anything. Op, I implore you to establish firm limits and defend both your husband and yourself. I'm sorry to be so harsh, but whether these individuals are relatives or not, you need to have a backbone because they are abusing you. This isn't acceptable. Not the fool, the op. Secure your credit right away. Yes, Jen is completely insane. Are these folks planning to move out? It's time for you and your spouse to sit them down and give them a time frame if they don't. They should prepare to move out or learn to value and respect what they already have. She's very brash though, so I wonder what story your son tells her. Did your son simply believe her when she said he was the father, or did he even bother to get a paternity test? Their timeline moves quickly, and I can't help but wonder about her entitlement and motivations. Regarding the paternity, I was also pondering it. It's possible that Jennifer is an avaricious witch and David is not the baby's father. Hey, these are grown-ups. They have accountability for their personal deeds and involvement in this circumstance. It is their responsibility to alter the current scenario if they don't like it. They have the freedom to choose for themselves, but not the authority to decide for others. Inform David that you are unable to assist him in improving his life, and that his issues with his wife and children are not your worries. I'm hoping everything goes well for you. My sister Lane, 30, has 2 sons, Luke, a toddler, and Jake, a young grammar school student. The boys have 2 different fathers, neither of whom is involved, and she is their only parent. Lane and Jake got their mom-son time to bond before Luke was born a year ago. Jake actually felt hurt when it ended after Luke was born since he enjoyed it. Lane informed him that he had a brother who needed her time and that mom-son time had to end immediately. But the issue is that when Lane spends mom-son time with Luke, she has no trouble sending Jake to me, our parents, or our grandparents. We've volunteered to watch Luke a few times so she can spend time with Jake as well, but she's consistently declined. Lane has been whining for weeks now about how Jake doesn't appear to like him and doesn't seem to want to play or engage with him. She informed me that on one occasion, despite knowing that Luke was hungry, Jake refused to sit with him so she could take pictures of them. On another occasion, he held off on eating his lunch until she put Luke to sleep. She informed me that Jake would not even look at or touch Luke. She told me that Luke spends time with her alone while Jake doesn't, so I asked her if she thought it might be jealousy. No, she replied. She declined when I told her that Jake had requested some mom-son time with her. Since Luke is still a baby, and he is an older boy, she informed me. I reminded her that Jake was still her baby and that he was as worthy of her time as Luke was. When she inquired about her plans for Luke, I informed her that we had offered to watch him so she could spend time with Jake, exactly as we had done with him even in his infancy. She denied that it was taking place. She began griping about Jake's lack of interest in Luke and his resentment of him a few days ago. She disregarded me when I told her how she could help. She claimed that I provided her no sound counsel. I told her I had, but she didn't listen. I advised her that unless she allowed us to see Luke on occasion, Jake would always feel replaced and angry, and she would push him away without ever being able to help him form a bond with Luke. She informed me that since I was still a child at age 21 and didn't need to meddle in her parenting, I had no right to tell her what to do or to screw me. Am I the foolish one? Not the fool. Well done for speaking out for Jake. I'm sure the poor guy feels abandoned. Elderly siblings should always be informed about the impending arrival of a new baby and how they will require a lot more care for a little period of time. However, it might be confusing for a child to have a close relationship abruptly ended, and it doesn't seem like she's making any further effort to promote bonding. Something like involve Jake while she's tending to Luke. I am stating the obvious. Your sister is an awful mother. I'm really sorry for Jake. He has no parents other than your sister, and he is already receiving inadequate care. He's young. Infants may require more care than toddlers, but the moment your sister adopts a new child, he remains her son. If she continues to cause a wedge between these brothers, Jake will only grow to hate Luke. Jake probably only thinks of Luke as the person who took his mother away. Growing up, Luke would question why his brother doesn't love him and feel that it's unfair to him as well. She'll probably find another person to hit on her and ignore both of her children in favor of the new one. So don't worry. While 21-year-old OP is a child for offering wise counsel, little Jake is too big to be begging for his mother's attention. Is your sister doing all right? Luke and Jake's mother couldn't be bothered, so please take care of them both. Jake may not understand at first, but he needs to witness positive instances of children receiving equitable treatment. Wendy, a girl I care for, has been phoning me nonstop ever since my kid got her pregnant. I take care of it when I have the time, but 3 times a week while the child was over at my house, I set boundaries. That infuriated the two of them and our relationship soured. In a few months he will be getting married and I got an invitation. When I contacted, he informed me that there were requirements to attend the wedding. The main one was having to watch their daughter, my granddaughter, when she was getting married. When I questioned whether he was serious, he explained that it was to demonstrate my willingness to be a grandmother and that I hadn't taken up my position to the fullest. I told them they could arrange a babysitter and that I would not be attending the wedding after giving it some thought. I had had enough of this. My spouse supports my decisions after I told him about them. I have provided proof of the entire situation to anyone who inquires, and I haven't concealed the reason I'm not going. Several family members declined to attend their wedding as a result of this. They both told me I could come without babysitting and called me a jackass. I'm sticking with my choice for now. Yes, you've made the correct decision, LOL. Assure him that you'll be at his next wedding. You are being welcomed as a service, not as a parent. I'm glad you recognized how offensive this was and responded appropriately, and that he's now acknowledging how seriously he messed up. Next, he attempted to accuse and humiliate you for it. Forget about that noise. He's now realizing that there are repercussions for his activities and that he doesn't deserve to treat people, even family, that way. Service providers receive payment. They anticipate that the OP will arrive as a guest with a present, miss the opportunity to perform a service, and then not receive payment. It shouldn't be necessary to put you, his own mother, through any sort of test. Ready to become a grandmother? Before they had the baby, what did they seek for your permission to do? Additionally, they could have easily found another babysitter if they had required one. Several other family members also withdrew, which makes me wonder whether your son has made it plain that the only thing he does for his family is provide free babysitting. But holy crap, I have concerns about the dynamics of your family. I suppose you know your son. What's the matter with him? Before his baby was born, were you close? Has he always been conceited and pampered, or is this a recent development? Have you attempted to discuss any of this with him as opposed to merely declining requests that you are unable or unwilling to fulfill? Where's his head at this moment? I regret to inform you that your son and the woman he married are not very intelligent.